Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing our Week 6 picks and predictions, and we're heading back out to the Pac-12, a conference that I've kind of been on record saying this is the best conference in the country right now. You take a look at the quarterback play, it's absolutely elite out there on the West Coast. Love talking Pac-12 football. Arizona heading on the road to play USC. We spent a lot of time talking this USC defense. Excited to get into some of these key matchups. Now, before we do, again, just want to say thank you to you guys. The USC fans, we've had a lot of fun talking USC football. You guys have shown a ton of support, and Pac-12 fans in general. This is a conference I've loved to talk about. The support from you guys has been absolutely insane. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. Can't thank you guys enough. And more importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, chopping it up. Appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas. And without further ado, let's get into this. And I kind of want to start on USC and the offensive side of the ball, going up against an Arizona defense that massively improved this year on defense. But USC, we knew this would happen on offense. Like, you look at all the talent that they had on offense, Lincoln Riley calling the plays, you knew they would put up some special numbers. What you're seeing, though, is almost better than expectation. 53.6 points per game. That's number one in the country. They're averaging 8.7 yards per snap on offense. Almost a first down every time they snap the ball. 555 yards per game. And again, a couple of these games, USC's kind of sat back and throttled back this offense. What they're doing on the offensive side of the ball, you haven't really seen a defense successfully stop yet. What I want to talk about before we get to Caleb Williams and this passing attack is the rushing attack. And I feel like nobody really talks about it because USC, Caleb Williams, all the wide receivers. Marshawn Lloyd is averaging 8.6 yards per rush. They've been running the ball. Austin Jones doing his thing too. They've been running the ball at an extremely high level. The offensive line, one of the best groups in the Pac-12 and maybe even in the country. I wonder if USC goes back to it a little bit more. I thought they went away from the run a little bit in the second half of that Colorado game. And I get, like, taking the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands. I wouldn't want to do that either. But you're having so much success running the football. And I was kind of thinking the other night, I wonder if that can help maybe take a little bit more pressure off the defense, right? We know USC kind of going through some growing pains and some struggles on the defensive side of the ball. We'll get back into that in a little bit. But if you continue to run the football, control that time of possession a little bit more than USC is already doing, I wonder if that can help you play a little bit more better complementary football. Now, that being said, I don't want to diminish what Caleb Williams is doing through the air because, again, he's putting up special Heisman numbers, and everyone wants to talk about some other new quarterbacks. Caleb Williams completing 75% of his balls for 1,600 yards, 20 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. You talk about all the talent that is emerging around him. Taj Washington, Brendan Rice really hitting his stride. Obviously, Zachariah Branch, Mario Williams, Dorian Singer. I mean, they have a wide receiver room that could fill out 2 or 3 college football teams. That's how talented they are. So it's not really a surprise all the success USC is having on the offensive side of the ball. I'm just kind of thinking, especially when you play some of these offenses that are really explosive, maybe you can establish that run a little bit more, keep opposing offenses off the field. Could be a little bit of an interesting recipe for USC going forward. Now, Arizona on the defensive side of the ball, I mentioned they made some improvements. I want to kind of emphasize that, right? 3.3 yards per carry given up on defense. That's 33rd in the country. 23 points per game allowed. That's top 50 in the country. And again, nothing in the top 10, but you're seeing this Arizona program build this roster out, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because we all know they can score points. They got the weapons on the outside that we'll talk about in a second, but this defense kind of taking care of business a little bit. They're also getting after the passer extremely well. 8.8% sack rate. That's top 30 in the country. Now, the one issue, the secondary is still getting beat up a little bit, right? Giving up the big play, 8.5 yards per pass. We all know how explosive USC is in terms of pushing the ball downfield. That's probably what you're looking for if you're USC is we can hit this big play on an Arizona State or Arizona secondary that has kind of given up that big play. Now, I want to switch sides because this is kind of the story. You talk about USC and if they can do something special and if Arizona maybe can cover in this game, it's USC on the defensive side of the ball, right? Now, Arizona on offense, Jaden DeLora, he didn't play last week. Sounds like he's going to be able to give it a go this week. We'll see, but I don't even know if there's that big of a drop-off because you saw the quarterback too for Arizona. I got his name right here, Noah Fifita. He played really well when I went back and watched, and you have absolute weapons on the outside. And Jacob Cowan, T-Mac, two guys that one, T-Mac just big body, can catch everything. Jacob Cowan really good in space. This Arizona offense can make some plays, can find some explosive plays. Now on USC, kind of want to dig into how can they kind of maybe improve on the defensive side of the ball. Now, USC fans, we kind of did a deep dive into that USC performance after Colorado, so you guys can go check that out. But what I'm looking for USC is, for one, up front, I don't think people talk enough about, and I get USC's defense has struggled, and I'm not trying to defend what we saw in the second half against Colorado. One bright spot, that defensive line continues to absolutely wreak havoc in the backfield. 9.5% sack rate. That's top 20 in the country. Solomon Byrd, Jamil Muhammad, those guys, Bear Alexander on the inside, Kion Bars, those guys are Romello Height. Also, there's a laundry list of guys on that defensive line that can make it happen. They're deep up there. They're really, really active. What we said is they got to make sure they're staying in their rush lanes because, again, Jaden Delora is a guy that even with the injury can extend plays, get outside the pocket. That's arguably where he's most dangerous. So I know you guys, USC, I should say, on the defensive line can get after the passer, win their one-on-ones, but you got to make sure you're in your rush lanes because if you allow a guy like Jaden Delora to get outside the pocket, extend plays, that's when he's gonna kind of tear you up. So I'm taking a look at that. The next thing I want to talk about is the linebackers. We talked about Tackett Curtis, needs some time in my opinion. I think it's so obvious that he is a freshman out there, doesn't really know what he's doing quite yet. He's being told where to line up. His run fits aren't good. I wonder if this is a game where you go to Eric Gentry. And we mentioned this kind of throughout the season. USC has a couple different linebackers back there, right? Mason Cobb, Tackett Curtis, some bigger bodies that are really good in the tackle box. Guy like Eric Gentry or Zon Davis, those are kind of guys that you want in space, and Arizona's going to want to spread you out. They're not going to run the football right into the teeth of the defense. They're going to want to attack the perimeter, get you guys out in space. Is Eric Gentry the better linebacker to be playing more snaps than a guy like Tackett Curtis? Because, I mean, as physical as Tackett Curtis is, when it comes to be playing in space and making tackles in space, and even Mason Cobb to an extent, that's not necessarily where they're successful. So a guy like Gentry, I wonder if you can get him more reps in this game. Now, when you go play Notre Dame next week, it might be more of a Mason Cobb kind of linebacker that you want. But this week, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more Eric Gentry because I think he's better fit to defend an Arizona offense that is explosive, wants to spread you out and get you in space. And then to the back end, two things. One, Bryson Shaw, I wonder what's going to happen with him. We kind of highlighted him as a guy that was continually to get picked on. But what I'm looking at a little bit more is USC was so good. I mean, they struggled on defense last year, but they were so good at taking the football away. This year, only averaging 0.8 takeaways per game. That's outside of the top 100. This is an Arizona's team that they turn the ball over. Jaden Delora, as much as he can make your jaw drop with some of these throws, he also makes your jaw drop in the opposite way as well, and some throws that just really make you scratch your head. Can USC start getting some of those turnovers? Because you talk about a USC team that's doing something special. I mean, the ball hawking guys like Kalen Bullock, can you get your hands on footballs? Can the defensive line maybe get in there and get some strip sacks, get the ball loose? That's kind of what I'm looking for this USC team, is forcing some turnovers against an Arizona team that has not been great taking care of the football. Now, getting to the pick here, USC at home, checking the spread again. I mean, you got the over-under at 72, line sitting at 21.5. Last week, I liked the USC first half against Colorado because you kind of knew they'd come out swinging, and it kind of played out exactly how you maybe thought. Like USC kind of parked the bus a little bit in the second half. I'm not necessarily itching to touch this one. I think that USC wins this game. I think they're going to still continue to work some kinks out on the defensive side of the ball. I don't see, like, if this does, the only way Arizona wins, I think, is in a track meet with Jaden Delora going off and scoring a lot of points. No one's beaten Caleb Williams in this USC offense in a track meet where you're trying to score as many points as you can. And I don't know if Arizona has the physical bodies to slow this one down and kind of drag it into the mud and kind of out physical a USC team. So for that reason, I'm going USC. I would take them to cover the 21.5 too. I feel like you're going to see Lincoln Riley leave that first team defense in a lot in the second half, get those guys ready for Notre Dame next week. I think you're going to see them focused, Give me USC covering the number. My eyeballs are going to be on the defense. How can they slow down a spread you out speed and space attack that Arizona comes with you? Excited for this game. 10:30 Eastern time. The boys are going to lose a little sleep Saturday night, but very excited. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, again, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas like you guys have, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.